Now, from WYDC TV, this is Big Fox News at 10.
Good evening, I'm Ann Emanuel. An ongoing lease dispute could lead to big changes at First Arena in Elmira. Big Fox's Josh Feldberg reports why the downtown event center could soon be left vacant.
It's been less than 2 years since Mammoth Sports and Entertainment moved into First Arena here in Elmira. But according to the Chemung County Industrial Development Agency, their time in the building may already be up. The Chemung County IDA released a statement that says they are, quote, in the process of effectuating the termination of its lease agreement with Mammoth Sports and Entertainment, LLC. Mammoth Sports began leasing the arena for $1 a year back in November of 2021. The lease agreement stated that the tenant was responsible for all utility charges such as electricity, gas, HVAC, water, heating, and more. Big Fox reached out to Mammoth Sports president Steve Donner for comment on the situation, but have yet to hear back. Mammoth Sports and Entertainment could become the latest contributor to troubled management in the arena. The last tenant of the arena, Robbie Nichols, operated the building for 3 years before the county regained control at the end of the lease agreement. With the possibility of a terminated lease, the futures of the Elmira Mammoth hockey team and the Elmira Renegades Pro Box lacrosse team are both up in the air. Both teams competed in their inaugural seasons this year. Josh Feldberg, Big Fox News, Elmira.
Guthrie Hospital celebrates World Trauma Survivors Day. Our Maggie Hall speaks to survivors and has a special announcement from Guthrie Medical.
The Guthrie Air Medical helicopters respond and transport victims of major traumas.
We're basically a mobile ICU ER, so we carry everything that you would find inside the hospital.
A new thing that will be found in both the medical helicopters and the hospital is something that will save patients' lives. It's called whole blood.
Historically, when we replace blood, we replace it by components, the red cells, the plasma, the platelets. But if we can replace the blood, which is most equivalent to what we just lost, it will improve the patient outcomes because they're getting back exactly what they lost. So yes, it will save lives.
And we're joined by just two of our trauma survivors. We asked them to come today to speak to you all.
Kevin Gibbs was in a serious motorcycle accident and airlifted here to Robert Packer Hospital.
Yeah, it is very satisfying to come back and meet, people that were so critical to my care, and, because he might back this up by, I think for a while they weren't too sure whether I was going to make it or not, them as well as my wife. So, yeah, I'm just happy to be alive. And
Marshall French was pinned underneath a dump truck after an accident on his farm.
I'm just so thankful for the trauma team here, their care, their love, concern. It's been a trip, but I'm here today.
Whole blood will be on Guthrie Air helicopters and right here in the trauma bays to save more trauma victims' lives, like Marshall's and Kevin's. Maggie Hall, Big Fox News, Sayre.
A bridge closure in the town of Corning will affect some motorists for the next 14 weeks. The Steuben County Department of Public Works announced that the Hamilton Road Bridge over Cutler Creek will be closed starting today. The bridge will be completely replaced during this period. Glimmers of hope today in Washington for a deal on the debt limit crisis. President Biden met with congressional leaders today, and while the two sides remain at odds, they may be getting closer to an agreement. Doug Luzader has the latest from Washington.
President Biden is leaving for Japan later today, but he's having to cut that trip short to return to Washington. There may be optimism, but they're not there yet.
Get a good picture of all of us. We're having a wonderful time.
Well, they didn't exactly look like they were having a wonderful time, but the president did meet with congressional leaders who walked out of that meeting with at least hints of optimism.
So just finished our meeting with the president. I did think this one was a little more productive.
Default is a disaster. Full stop. and everyone understood that in the room.
And President Biden saw signs of progress, too, to reach an agreement to raise the nation's debt ceiling with a possible crisis just 2 weeks away. And he will still travel to Japan today for a scheduled G7 meeting.
However, I'm cutting my trip short. I'm postponing the Australia portion of the trip and my stop in Papua New Guinea in order to be back for the final negotiations with congressional leaders.
With the federal debt exploding over the past 3 years or so, Republicans are eyeing cuts to bring down the deficit, including clawing back unused COVID funds. President Biden wants tax hikes, but he suggested he was open to new work requirements for food stamp and welfare programs, which infuriated progressive Democrats. And he announced a new team at the White House to spearhead the talks.
So I found that to be productive, personally. But we've got a lot of work to do in a short amount of time.
And the speaker also said a deal is possible by the end of the week, but even that will be cutting it close. In Washington, Doug Luzader, Fox News.
New York Congressman George Santos's troubles are growing. He is now potentially facing a vote to expel him from Congress, although Speaker Kevin McCarthy is pumping the brakes. Madeline Rivera has the latest from Washington.
Can you answer that question, sir?
House lawmakers are moving one step closer to removing embattled Republican Congressman George Santos. A vote to expel him may come Wednesday after House Democrats triggered the move.
Truth and justice are critical components of a healthy democracy. But that faith and trust are broken when the voters have been lied to.
Santos is facing several charges, including wire fraud, money laundering, and lying to Congress. The Justice Department is accusing the first-term congressman of falsely claiming he was unemployed so he could receive federal benefits during the COVID pandemic. Prosecutors also say Santos used donor money from his 2022 campaign to pay for personal expenses, like designer clothing.
What do you say to your own colleagues who don't think you should be a member of Congress anymore? Mr. Santos?
A vote to expel Santos requires a 2/3 majority, a high bar to reach in the House. Instead, House Speaker Kevin McCarthy wants another committee to review Santos' actions.
I think the George Santos indictment is very serious. I also know in America you're innocent to proven guilty, but I don't want to sit around and wait. So what I would like to do is move this to ethics.
Democrats, however, say they're aiming to put Republicans on the record.
If you vote for this motion to refer it to the Ethics Committee, you are complicit in George Santos's fraud.
Removing Santos would pare down the Republicans' already slim majority in the House, a scenario that several GOP members don't want. In Washington, Madeline Rivera, Fox News.
Your complete forecast is next. Plus this.
A new project could help make traveling by electric vehicle a lot more convenient for thousands. I'm Kevin Cork with that story and much more coming right up.
Here's your local stock market update from Big Fox. Now, your Twin Tiers forecast from Big Fox.
Good evening. It looked like a gorgeous day out the window with that blue sky around, but taking a step out the door was making it feel almost like a very early spring-like day as we were watching this cold air mass seep into the area through the overnight and then keep us on that chilly side today. Now, we did have some stronger winds in place with that system pushing its way through. It was with a cold front, fairly dry cold front, but what it did bring was those gusty winds to limit that frost development for this morning. Now, what we're expected for tomorrow morning, though, is much calmer winds in place in those clear skies, which allows for those temperatures to tumble. And we are looking to approach those 20s for low temperatures. We are going to be nearly 15 to 20 degrees below average for this time of the year. 26 into Mansfield, 29 into Elmira, 30 into Wayland. So it is going to be a frigid morning, not only just for us for these standards, but for some of that more susceptible vegetation, meaning some of your maybe potted plants that you may have got for Mother's Day, and as well as some of maybe that gardening that you've gone out to. So note that covering that up can help protect from that frost development to kill off some of those crops, bringing those in, keeping them in more of that comfortable environment in your home, and then making sure that as you step out the door tomorrow morning, you're definitely going to want the layer with a freeze warning in place. Now, we will talk about making some improvements though. We're already seeing that into tomorrow morning. We'll be back under a southerly flow, which is going to allow for that sunshine that will be in place to bring us that warming. Now, there is more of that wildfire smoke from Canada continuing to work its way into the upper atmosphere. That's where it's going to stay, is the upper atmosphere for now. So it's just going to bring some hazy sunshine from our Thursday into our Friday. So it is going to bring that red tint to that sunset as well as sunrise into Friday, something to keep an eye open for. But also note that we will see that another frontal system is going to be timed out in our near future, and that's looking to come into Saturday. So that will bring us some cooling. Not as cool as we were just dealing with, and it's also not going to be a washout. Just a few showers we'll be seeing, but it is going to fall through the daytime. So if you do have some Saturday plans, that is something to keep in mind before the extended forecast, which is running through much of the end of May, is going to be quiet as well as warming, as even that outlook that runs through May 31st. So this is your Memorial Day forecast. It is showing above average temperatures. Now, we're still going to be technically below average for Thursday, especially as we're starting off the day into those 20s and 30s, but we do have temperatures slightly warmer than what we were seeing today, as we are looking at mid to upper 60s for high temperatures with that hazy sunshine around, especially by the afternoon. So we are edging close to seasonal. Seasonal is about 72, so it is still a little chilly, but improvements will be made, and we'll really see the improvement on Thursday as we get a bump of that southerly wind, which bumps us into those more low to mid 70s. We then see that those shut off pretty quickly with that another passing frontal system on Saturday, but the rebounds are made quickly as we roll into next week.